Not everyone can walk this road. And that's not an insult. It's just the truth. Because before the work, before the trophies, before the lights and the noise, there is a decision that most people never make. Kobe Bryant made it early. Not the decision to be famous. Not the decision to be liked. Not even the decision to win championships. He made the decision to live differently. While everyone else was chasing comfort, he chose commitment. While others were negotiating with their excuses, he drew a line. And once that line was drawn, there was no turning back. See, life doesn't ask you if you want to be great. It asks you what you're willing to give up. Sleep, distractions, approval, the illusion of balance. Kobe understood something very few people ever accept. You don't accidentally become exceptional. You choose it. Every day. Especially on the days you don't feel like it. Most people wake up asking, "How do I feel today?" Kobe woke up asking, "What needs to be done?" And that difference changes everything. You can call it obsession. You can call it madness. You can call it extreme. But what it really is clarity. Because when you know exactly who you're trying to become, comfort starts to feel like a distraction. Rest starts to feel earned, not given. And excuses start to sound like lies you no longer tolerate. Kobe wasn't chasing happiness. He was chasing alignment. Alignment between who he said he was and what he did when nobody was watching. That's where most people quit. Not when it's hard, but when it's quiet. When there's no applause, no validation, no one to impress. Just you, your standard, and the work. Most people say they want greatness, but they live like average is acceptable. They say they want more, but they keep habits that guarantee less. They say they're disciplined, but only when it's convenient. Kobe didn't wait to feel motivated. He didn't negotiate with his mood. He didn't ask permission from comfort. He built a routine so ruthless that motivation became irrelevant. Because discipline, when done right, removes the need for inspiration. This road demands something from you. Not sometimes. Every day. It demands that you stop pretending that talent alone is enough. It demands that you accept a hard truth. There are people just as gifted as you who will outwork you if you let them. And Kobe refused to let that happen. Not because he was afraid of losing, but because he refused to disrespect his own potential. He understood that laziness isn't always lying in bed. Sometimes it's training without intention. Sometimes it's showing up without focus. Sometimes it's doing just enough to feel productive. That wasn't his way. He didn't train to look busy. He trained to eliminate weakness. And that starts with honesty. Honesty about your effort. Honesty about your habits. Honesty about whether you're really doing what's required or just what's comfortable. This road doesn't care about your excuses. It doesn't care where you came from. It doesn't care how unfair it feels. It only responds to one thing: consistent, intentional work. And that's why not everyone can walk it. Because this road doesn't reward talk. It rewards sacrifice. And once you step onto it, there's no applause at the beginning, no guarantee at the end. Just the quiet understanding that if you stay long enough, you won't recognize the person you used to be. That's the decision Kobe made. And that's the decision in front of you now. This road gets quiet. Not peaceful quiet. Not relaxing quiet. The kind of quiet where there's nowhere to hide. No crowd. No teammates. No noise to distract you from the truth. Just early mornings. Empty gyms. And the echo of the ball hitting the floor. This is where most people turn around. Because they don't quit when it's painful. They quit when it's lonely. Kobe lived in those hours. While the world was asleep, he was already drenched in sweat. While others were dreaming about success, he was working through failure. not because he had to, because he chose to. See, greatness isolates you. When your standards rise, your circle shrinks. When your discipline deepens, your social life takes a hit. When your goals become non-negotiable, people start calling you different, and they don't mean it as a compliment. They say you're obsessed. They say you've changed. They say you're doing too much. What they really mean is, your commitment makes them uncomfortable, because your work exposes their excuses. Kobe understood that being misunderstood is part of the price. You don't get to demand greatness and still be relatable to everyone. You don't get to chase excellence and still be invited to every room. This road asks you a hard question. Are you willing to be alone long enough to become who you say you want to be? Because nobody's clapping at 4 a.m. Nobody's watching the extra reps. Nobody's praising the discipline that happens in silence. And that's exactly why it works. Kobe didn't fall in love with the spotlight. He fell in love with preparation. He trusted that the unseen work would eventually reveal itself. Most people need external validation to continue. Likes, praise, encouragement. Kobe needed alignment. Alignment between effort and intention. Between sacrifice and purpose. He wasn't chasing approval. He was chasing mastery. And mastery demands solitude. It demands that you sit with discomfort instead of running from it. It demands that you repeat boring fundamentals until boredom turns into precision. This road will test you in ways no one warns you about. It will test your patience, your ego, your identity. There will be days where progress feels invisible, where effort feels unreturned, where doubt starts whispering louder than belief. And in those moments, there's no motivational speech that saves you. Only your standard. Only the promise you made to yourself. When no one else was listening, Kobe didn't rely on emotion to show up. He relied on structure. Routine became his anchor. Discipline became his compass. Because feelings are unreliable. Standards are not. This road doesn't care how tired you are. It doesn't care how talented you think you are. It doesn't care how much potential people say you have. It only cares about what you do when no one is forcing you. And that's why so few stay. Because staying means accepting that this path won't always feel rewarding. Sometimes it will feel empty. Sometimes it will feel unfair. Sometimes, then you're getting back. But that's the trade. You give first. You suffer first. You sacrifice first. And only later do you understand why it was necessary. Kobe didn't fear the lonely hours. He respected them because he knew that's where separation happens. That's where the gap is created between those who want it and those who earn it. This road doesn't need crowds. It doesn't need noise. It just needs you to keep showing up when it would be easier not to. And that's why not everyone can walk it. This road will hurt you, not in a dramatic way, not all at once, but slowly, consistently, relentlessly. It will hurt your body. It will hurt your confidence. It will hurt the story you tell yourself about who you are. Because eventually, effort is no longer enough. Eventually, talent stops saving you. Eventually, your strengths are exposed and your weaknesses are hunted. Kobe reached that point early. He didn't dominate because everything went right. He dominated because he stayed. When things went wrong, missed shots, bad games, losses that followed him home, criticism that didn't care how hard he worked. And here's the part most people don't talk about. Hard work doesn't protect you from failure. It introduces you to deeper levels of it. When you raise your standards, your mistakes get louder. When you chase excellence, average performances start to feel unbearable. This is where most people break. Not because they can't handle pain, but because they can't handle disappointment in themselves. They look at the gap between who they are and who they thought they'd be by now, and they soften the goal. They lower the standard. They reframe the dream. They call it balance. They call it self-care. But deep down, they know the truth. They didn't fail because they weren't capable. They failed because staying demanded more than they were willing to give. Kobe didn't do that. When the game exposed him, he didn't hide. He studied it, frame by frame, detail by detail, not to protect his ego, to sharpen it. He understood that pain is information, failure is feedback, and frustration is a signal that something needs to be rebuilt. This road doesn't break you to destroy you. It breaks you to strip away what doesn't belong. The excuses, the shortcuts, the identity built on talent instead of discipline. And once that's gone, you're left with a choice. You can retreat and return to who you were before. Or you can stay and become someone new. Staying is not heroic. It's not cinematic. It's quiet. It's waking up sore and showing up anyway. It's accepting that progress won't be linear. That confidence won't be permanent. That belief will come and go. What stays is the work. Kobe didn't trust confidence. He trusted preparation. Because confidence, when conditions change, preparation doesn't. This road teaches you something brutal. You are not special for wanting it. You are only different if you're willing to suffer for it longer than most. And suffering doesn't always look like pain. Sometimes it looks like boredom. Sometimes it looks like repetition. Sometimes it looks like doing the same thing for years without applause. That's where identity is forged. Not when you're winning, not when it's easy, but when the voice in your head asks, "Is this still worth it?" And you answer with action. Kobe stayed through that question. He stayed when it stopped being fun. He stayed when the body resisted. He stayed when expectations crushed lighter men. Because he wasn't in love with the outcome. He was committed to the process. This road doesn't reward passion alone. Passion fades. It rewards persistence. Persistence shapes you. And once you survive the breaking point, you realize something dangerous. You're no longer afraid of failing. You're afraid of quitting. Because quitting would mean everything you endured meant nothing. And that fear keeps you moving forward long after motivation dies. That's why not everyone can walk this road. Most people leave right before the transformation begins. At some point, this road stops asking you to try harder. Because by then, trying is no longer the issue. By then, the work is automatic. The routine is non-negotiable. And discipline is no longer something you do. It's who you are. This is where most people misunderstand Kobe Bryant. They think Mamba Mentality was aggression, intensity, trash talk, an unbreakable glare. That was never the core. The mentality was precision, consistency, and an almost uncomfortable relationship with truth. Kobe didn't ask, "Did I work hard today?" He asked, "Was I honest today?" Honest about effort. Honest about focus. Honest about whether he corrected what needed correction, or just repeated what felt familiar. Because repetition without awareness is not mastery. It's stagnation. Mastery begins when you stop being impressed with yourself, when highlights stop satisfying you, when praise stops feeding you, when winning stops covering flaws. Kobe trained past applause. He trained for moments when talent alone wouldn't save him, because he knew something most people avoid. Pressure doesn't create weakness. It reveals it. And when pressure came, he wanted nothing hidden. This road, if you stay on it long enough, rewires you. You stop needing reminders. You stop needing motivation. You stop needing someone to push you, because the standard lives inside you now. And that's dangerous. Dangerous because now you don't get to lie to yourself. You feel it immediately. When effort slips, when focus drifts, when discipline softens. There's no one to blame, no circumstances to hide behind. Just you and the agreement you made with yourself years ago. That's the weight of mastery. Kobe accepted that weight. He didn't chase perfection. He chased elimination. Eliminating wasted movement. Eliminating wasted time. Eliminating wasted thought. Every rep had a reason. Every drill had a purpose. Every session had intent. Because when you play at the highest level, details decide outcomes. And details are invisible to people who haven't earned the right to see them. This mentality doesn't look exciting from the outside. It looks boring, repetitive, almost obsessive, until it isn't. Until the moment arrives, when everyone else tightens up, and you don't, because you've been here before, 1,000 times. In practice, in silence. That's the advantage. Not confidence, not hype. Familiarity. Familiarity with pressure. Familiarity with fatigue. Familiarity with responsibility. When the moment comes, you don't rise to it. You fall back on who you've become. And that's why this road is unforgiving. Because once discipline becomes identity, there's no off switch. You can't pretend. You can't coast. You can't live below your standard without feeling it immediately. That's the price. But it's also the reward. Because now, effort isn't forced. Focus isn't painful. Sacrifice isn't dramatic. It's normal. This is what people mean when they say Kobe was different. Not more talented. Not more gifted. More exact. More demanding. More unwilling to compromise with who he knew he could be. This road doesn't make you loud. It makes you dangerous. Quietly. Relentlessly. And by now, you already know the truth. If you've stayed this long, you're not here by accident. You're here because something in you refuses to settle. And that refusal is the mentality. One day, the lights go out. The crowd leaves. The noise fades. And the game ends. Not just basketball. The game of chasing. The game of proving. The game of becoming. And what's left is not the trophies. It's not the numbers. It's not the highlights people replay. What's left is who you became. Because you walked this road, Kobe understood that. He knew the game would end long before the work did. Because legacy isn't what people remember about you. Legacy is what remains in others. After you're gone, it's the standard you set that quietly raises theirs. It's the permission you give others to stop settling, to stop negotiating with their potential, to stop asking for shortcuts on a road that never had one. This road doesn't guarantee happiness. It doesn't promise comfort. It doesn't protect you from loss. What it gives you is something rarer. Respect, not applause, not admiration. Respect for yourself. The kind of respect that comes from knowing you didn't run when it got hard. You didn't fold when it got lonely. You didn't quit when it stopped rewarding you. Most people will never understand that. They'll ask why you worked so much, why you sacrificed so much, why you didn't slow down when everyone else did. They'll say life is about balance. They'll say you should have enjoyed it more, but they weren't there when you chose not to quit. They weren't there in the empty gyms, the painful mornings, the nights where doubt sat next to you, and you kept going anyway. This road doesn't ask to be understood. It asks to be walked, and walking it changes you. You don't come out louder. You don't come out flashy. You come out solid, unshakable, grounded, certain of who you are and what you're willing to stand for. That's the legacy. Not perfection, not dominance. Integrity between intention and action. Kobe didn't leave behind a formula. He left behind an example that says, you don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be fearless. You don't need to be gifted beyond measure. But you do need to be honest. Honest about what you want. Honest about what it costs. Honest about whether you're willing to pay that price. Because this road never lies. It will give back exactly what you put into it. No more, no less. And when your season ends, whatever that looks like for you, you'll look back, not with regret, but with clarity. Knowing you didn't live someone else's version of life. You lived yours, fully, deliberately, without apology. That's why not everyone can walk this road. But if you have, even for a while, you already know there was no other way. You would have respected yourself.